Hey, I'm 42nd Street Pete, and you're watching the Death Curse Society. You don't think anything bad will happen, do you? Think again. Death Curse Society, 42nd Street Pete. I'm live.
It's just another manic Monday. I wish it was Sunday, 'cause that's my fun day. My I don't have to run day. It's just another manic Monday. I wish it was Sunday, 'cause that's my fun day. It's just another manic Monday.
If you want to become a member, check out our website at deathcursesociety.com, then click on the membership tab. You can join for the price of a cup of coffee once a month. We got to thank our members. Special thanks to our final girls and guys, Chris, Lorena, BD, and Tyrone. Our Crazy Ralphs, Bell's Fancy Creations, Dr. Smiley, Raymond, and the whole damn enchilada pod. And of course to our camp counselors, 42nd Street Pete himself, Corey,
Hey.
Luke, Jimmy and Rachel, Stacy Lynn, Orlando, Patricia, Kristen, and JJ. Before we bring 42nd Pete in, we are going to get a little extra guest. We're going to bring in FaZe's mom. We'll just put it that
Final
way.
girl,
We're bringing in-
Lorena.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Can I show up my new shirt?
Yes.
Absolutely, sure. Let me scroll
cool
down
is
to
that?
you. Oh, there it
Can
is.
you see it?
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't see if you can see it. So, y'all are going to get to hear the story of how I discovered 42nd Street Pete. Not
All right.
discovered, but, for myself discovered. So,
First, Lorena,
yes.
you should kind of give people a heads up to what we're about to walk into here. This world, this society, this dirty alley on the streets of horror. That is
Good luck.
all right.
I can describe. I can tell him what to do and he'll do it, but he'll do it his own way.
Uh-oh.
So what Pete knows, he grew up and actually he lived in New Jersey, but he started going to New York City around 16 because he could get into bars back then. And he tells the story in 42nd Street Memories really well because I'll botch it. But he ended up going to 42nd Street. Oh yeah, so he started going to these theaters on 42nd Street, and the way his brain works, he remembers a lot of details about this stuff, except when he was really drunk. But he's more of a pothead now, so his memory's better. So did that cover it pretty well? That's how he knows this Grindhouse stuff, and he had some interesting experiences in the theaters.
That's dipping a big toe into it, but that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna try to pry it
Oh
open.
yeah, he tells the stories better, so I'll leave that to him.
Well,
And you'll get him. Yeah.
What is your role with the 42nd Street
Well,
Pete world now?
That's what I'm going to dive into here.
All right.
So, almost 27 years ago, I was pregnant out to Mars with your associate producer there, waddling around. And they had one of those, people in the 80s will remember these, and early 90s, one of those pop-up video stores, right? That had the weird shit.
Mhm.
And like dust bunnies in the corners. And so I took your associate producer's sister out to one of these, and they had not this, but there's this tape with the Something Weird logo.
Oh yeah.
And on the back of the tape, it had an address, which you can't see, you're not supposed to. And at some point, I wrote to this address. And among other things, I'm only going to show the top of this, a blue book
Yes.
in the mail. So this might explain why Chris is the way he is. Because I got into this when I was very pregnant with him. And in this blue book that I, again, only get to show a little bit of, is an article titled, from memory, The Devil's Playground
The Devil's Playground. Yeah.
by 42nd Street Pete. And I read this article, and there's other great shit in here too, but that was the one that really stuck with me. I mean, he takes you along 42nd Street for that night. You are
Nice.
with him, okay? So that kind of became my, when things got rough, I would reread the article and go out to 42nd Street with 42nd Street Pete. And I really didn't know that he did anything else. I just had the blue book and some other stuff from Mike Brainy when he was alive, the founder of Something Weird,
Right.
Mike Brainy. And so fast forward like 25 years, and I'm going through a hard time again, but my blue book is packed away. So what do I do? So I started watching a lot of trashy movies, and one of those was 42nd Street Memories. I'm like, God damn, there he is again. Okay, I'm gonna see if this guy's still alive. And I contacted him on Facebook, and he actually talked to me, and we started arguing about 5 minutes into the first conversation, I think. Well, you guys know some of this because I shared one of his videos. He replied to it, and I offered to have his babies. And so he messaged me and said, thanks, but no thanks. But how about one of my books?
There we go.
And we went from there. We just really clicked. And now we talk every day. And I edited one of his books already. And I just finished editing part 2 of his autobiography,
Nice.
One Last Toke. I think that's the title we're going with.
Nice.
But it's still got a couple weeks to go. I've still got some work left to do. But it'll be out there pretty soon.
Well, we're
So
definitely going
push
to be talking
that.
to him about his writings. Yes. I've got
Yes.
some questions about that for sure.
Yes, I demanded that.
I'll be
All
happy
right.
to do what we can here. Maybe we can, if we can turn over a nugget that Lorena's not familiar with,
Oh,
I will call this a victory.
yeah.
That's going to be
That'd be
tough.
cool.
We realize.
There may be stuff that he didn't want to tell me.
I don't know.
I
We'll see.
doubt it, considering what he has told me.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
Well,
So
let's bring him in right now.
yes, the man, the myth, the moving violation, 42nd Street Pete.
There he is.
Hey, I
Howdy,
even
sir.
did the shirt tonight. There you
Yeah.
go.
Oh,
I
yeah.
support the
Hey,
brand
baby.
as I should.
Appreciate
For
it.
you. 42nd
Yep.
Street.
Oh yeah.
We swapped it.
I
We
That was,
yeah,
swapped
I
it.
got
run
mine
by somebody I really can't fucking stand, but that I think she
Yeah.
told you the whole story behind that.
I probably did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not
That,
keeping me
that
in
was
here,
done
are
as
you,
an insult
guys?
to me, that
Ah,
drawing, and
well, no.
we're sitting here fuming about it, and somebody goes, turn it into a fucking t-shirt and stick it in their ass. I said, all right.
That's right.
So
All right.
Done.
Lorena, you have anything else to say?
I
No.
Oh,
All right. Well, no.
Oh, shit.
You're
Why is
getting
this
double
light-
fingers and a sip of tea, Emily Post style. Woo, that's fucking hot,
That's
dude.
coffee. She's drinking coffee and doing the.
Yes.
I love it.
We love you. We love you. We'll see you next time. Thank you, Lorena.
Oh, yes.
Thank you
but
for
she
helping us.
disappeared too. She's working, I guess, right?
I think
Uh,
she's
She's
got,
done
I don't know if
working.
she's working tonight or not, but
Yeah.
she got
Uh,
out movie just to get to this.
So you got
Well-
questions? Maybe I have answers. I don't know.
I had to do it. Well, before we really get into the interview, I wanted to touch on kind of a current event that you may have some words about. We lost Roger Corman this weekend.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
And-
I got more than words about that. You noticed that the mainstream media didn't fucking say a goddamn thing about it?
I've
At least
seen
in my
very
end of
little.
the woods.
It's been quiet.
I've seen
Why?
very little. Yeah.
Why are you looking for them to at this point? You
Well,
know?
you know, sort of like, okay, when you look at what he did and how many, basically, he is Hollywood. He launched an entire generation of filmmakers and actors. I mean, here's a guy who took two guys that basically were known as these in the 50s and gave them leading roles, Lee Van Cleef and It Conquered the World, Charles Bronson and Machine Gun Kelly. So he saw shit before anybody else saw it. He was a visionary.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it, but I don't. I just gave up on expecting them to acknowledge anything I'm into like that. You know,
But you know what it is? If you're not like the top fucking 40, it seems, or something like that, because you figure, okay, here's a guy about a year ago, LQ Jones died. He was like 90 something. What wasn't he in? You know, growing up, all the westerns, the Peckinpah stuff, then horror stuff, and it's like, who cares?
I do appreciate it when some of the news channels will, you know, every 15, 20 minutes when somebody passes away, we'll have like more words to say about somebody. But yeah, you're right. It does tend to be
As long as
that
you're OJ,
upper
it's cool,
echelon.
you know?
Yeah. But Roger Corman definitely deserved some kind of mainstream tribute, and I have not seen it yet.
I
Me
got
neither. I sort of like, I don't hold my breath on any of this stuff.
Right.
You know?
I got 10-1 that the Oscars doesn't mention him in the in memoriam next year either.
No, they will.
Yeah.
They will.
You think?
They're not gonna snub him that bad.
You're taking my bet then?
I'll take your bet. Yeah, I'll
All
take your
right.
10. I'll take your 10
10 to
fucking
1.
bucks. Oh, 10 to 1?
They actually
Oh,
gave him an Oscar at one point, but it wasn't like really televised.
It was an honorary, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, here we are in the cafeteria. Here's a statue. Have a nice life.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the memories.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right. According to, and this is probably going to drive you nuts as the first question, but I'm still going to do it anyway because according to Merriam-Webster, Grindhouse means an often shabby movie theater having continuous showings, especially of pornographic or violent films. But from what I've been able to gather, it can also refer to an era in time, especially in film history, a broad style of film, a location, even a lifestyle. It seems to evolved in the many meanings over the years, but what, and especially nowadays, what does Grindhouse mean to you?
It was basically a lifestyle, a whole, different, it was so many genres of film mixed into one. Like we were talking before about, the marquees and stuff.
Right.
Just was really an incredible time for film because, here is all this stuff packed on one block. And yeah, the theaters were turn of the century. Dave Friedman also had said something too, that, these theaters went back to the bump and grind era too, with the burlesque and the Minsky era and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So it was all there, but basically those places opened up at like 10 in the morning and shut down at 4 in the morning. The only one that really went 24 hours was this really shitty place called the Harem, which was upstairs, and basically it didn't even have any ambient lights. It was like you had to watch where you sat down. Let's put it that way. And then there was the Venus that opened at 10 and closed at 7. So,
wow.
Yeah, there was some really weird and creepy places over there, scattered among, the legit theaters. But sort of when everything was making its end run, they all went to porn.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of them.
Yeah. How many? And I don't know if a lot of people realize what 42nd Street was like back in the 70s and 80s. How many theaters were crammed into that one block?
God, there was there was the Liberty, the Lyric, the Antco, the Selwyn, the Harris, the New Amsterdam, the Empire, the Rialto 1 and 2, Cine 42nd, Roxy. It was just everything. A lot of them were like, big legit theaters, and other ones we used to call them storefront theaters, which ran porn, like, Cine 42. We think they're going to show there. The Avon theaters were there. That was porn theaters. So it was just really crammed into that one block. And it was like Lorena knows this too. I don't know if she's, mentioned it on the air or nothing. I made that hard, left one day and just looked up the thing and all this great shit's playing. And it's like, this is where I want to be. I think it was like 66, 67.
Right.
So even when I was working at a sweater warehouse, they don't want to lay me off in the winter. So it basically made me this messenger to drive from Jersey to New York. And, I got to go to the office, but I'm going to 42nd Street first to see what the fuck's playing so I can come back later.
It had to have been an amazing time back then, just with the vibe and the culture and, just everything that was going on, and to have it all in like a small area. Now a movie theater takes up an entire city block. or
These
the
weren't small.
multiplex.
The weird part was these weren't small places either. It sort of looked that way because they were crammed in, but they really weren't small.
Right.
Some were actually opulent at one point, but then you get to. I got over there, like I said, really started hanging in '68. Going to like the concerts at the Fillmore East and things like that, and then you sort of saw the whole decline, unfortunately, when you got up into the end of the '80s.
Mm-hmm.
Where I think it was they all just got to the point where they didn't give a shit. Like one theater, you didn't want it raining when you went in there because there was actually holes in the ceiling and the roof.
Hey, I still to this day perform a karaoke gig in a place where if it starts raining, it leaks inside the bar. So I guess that could I call that a grindhouse bar?
Oh fuck.
No,
Dive bar.
probably not. Probably dive bar for sure. Bar. Absolutely. Ziggy, you got a question for Pete?
Yeah, man. How has your definition or perception of grindhouse like changed over the years? I mean, you've been living this lifestyle, and I mean, at what point did you go fuck? Someone's got to keep beating the drum for this stuff,
I guess when I started, for lack of better words, my gimmick. The 42nd Street Pete gimmick, and then it was like, a lot of stuff falls through the cracks, and I met a lot of people over the 30 years I was doing the conventions and stuff like that. And it just, you look at what they did, and then you look at the certain period in time. Like I'm going like, H.G. Lewis did, Blood Feast. I think it was like 63. And then all of a sudden there's this black and white, really nasty fucking little movie out called The Flesh Eaters in 64. Then you go to 68 with Night of the Living Dead. And then here's the really weird one where they're pushing this thing with a Terrifier 2, where basically their selling point is that it makes people throw up.
Right.
Okay, 1969, they premiere a movie. People are going out the exit doors, puking their brains out. And it wasn't a horror movie. It was a fucking Western, The Wild Bunch.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when everything fucking changed. From then on till about the mid-'80s, when everything started getting shitty again. That was, to me, the most pivotal time for filmmaking in the world, because you had all this great shit going on. The spaghetti westerns, the horror movies, the Mondo stuff. It's just like this whole all-encompassing genre, biker films, blaxploitation. And, the thing was, most of these genres, they had about a shelf life of 5 to 7 years. Then they would peter out.
Hey, I mean, we've seen that with the whole slasher thing, I mean, it lasted a little longer, but I mean, that's a wedge of the pie. And
yeah, well, that was the filler in the 80s, because they basically had knocked everybody else out of business. So these were cheap and easy to make. So you basically had, well, here's the slasher movie of the week, April Fool's Day. And then you got, like one of the, 7 Doors to Death, which was The Beyond.
Terrible version of The Beyond. Yes.
Yeah.
The cut, awful, everything.
That's another thing too. That everybody says, well, did you see all this stuff over there? I said, what I saw and what they're restoring are 2 different animals, because they always lop something out of something. Even Make Them Die Slowly. When they cut Giovanni Ribisi's dick off, it's longer in the DVD, but it's like real quick cut like that. But everybody bought it because they knew what the hell it was.
Mm-hmm.
So that was sort of like Make Them Die Slowly was sadly prophetic, because that was when it started dying. I mean, it was already getting bad, but right after that, it just got worse and worse and worse. And then it was like, I think I bailed out in like 85. But I was doing business over there and was like, okay, I'm running around picking up videotapes and stuff like that. Do I want to go back and watch a movie? Fuck no.
I mean, that's where I discovered most of this kind of stuff, was just video stores and just digging through the racks and what's this? It looks like it's, I mean, they were always kind of aimed at us as horror movies,
Oh, yeah.
But then you'd get it and be like, fuck, I need a shower after watching some of this stuff, it's.
Well, see, there's a weird segue to this whole thing, because, all right, they got to the point, there was a Film Depot in New York. And they get like, I even was talking to Bob Morawski from Grindhouse Releasing about this, because they paired Pieces with Hills Have Eyes. And he said, why do you think they did that? I said, because nobody knew what the fuck Pieces was, and maybe it would flop, but everybody knew what the Hills Have Eyes was, and they wouldn't be happy, they'd be happy watching that. So there was this place where they could basically go and, okay, we need this, we need that. Because I remember they did a Curse triple feature: Curse of Frankenstein, Curse of the Living Corpse, Curse of the Fly. So all this stuff was like stashed in this place. So you get into the 90s where basically everything's dead now. And this is the segue to something weird video. Frank Henenlotter had heard that the security guards at this depot were selling prints for $100 a piece. So he wanted to grab basket case. So when he went up there and he saw what the fuck was in there, Mike, you got to get down here. Bring a fucking tractor trailer. You got to get down here. And that's how they got a lot of their shit. And if they didn't do that, the wrecking ball was going to take it out. That was it.
It'd be lost.
Yeah. So I heard they even found the camera negative for Bloody Pit of Horror in there.
Jesus Christ.
It was just mountains and mountains and mountains of film.
Wow.
So that's sort of how, he got into it, aside from starting out as a bootlegger.
That's what I mean. Because it's like, man, there's, the rights weren't never paid off on any of this stuff. But I mean, it's part of the charm of the thing,
Yeah, but you know what the whole thing was? He had some of Friedman's stuff before he had met Friedman. And Dave was the old school guy, okay, we'll send some guys up and we'll break your legs. So Dave finally got a hold of him, and Mike just turned it around and said, Mr. Friedman, I'm so glad you got in touch with me. I want to put out your films legit. And Dave was one of those guys that basically, it did its theatrical run, and that's it. We shelved it. So they never saw, none of these guys, any of them, ever saw past the theatrical run and maybe a couple more runs, and that's it. They never envisioned TV. They never envisioned VHS. They never envisioned any of this. So he gave Mike a few films, and when Mike gave him the check, he said, how many more you want? And that's what started the whole thing. Then he brought in, Don Edmonds, Dan Sony, Harry Novak, a whole bunch of people. So, honestly, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have had all this shit. And to me, all the rest of these guys that are just basically re-releasing the same shit. Something, you owe Mike Vraney a debt of gratitude, because without him, you would never be able to even touch this shit.
Right. You guys were talking about that different version of the Beyond. So that leads into this question from one of the audience members. Corey wants to know, and it's to Zag and Pete, which is probably a good thing because
Corey Clement, how you doing, bro? Been a while.
Yeah.
He says, one Fulci movie that needs a remake. Pick just one. I'll start with Pete on that. You got any idea?
A remake? Why would you really want to even remake any of them? And let's face it, they tried to remake Cannibal Holocaust and they fucked that all up.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm a Fulci guy to the heart, and I said this about Halloween back in the day too when Rob Zombie did this, but I don't see a Fulci movie being done right. They're going to try to overstory it. They're going to try to, you know what I mean?
You know what it is? There's certain guys that made their mark, and what they do is unique. And you can't copy that. I heard that somebody was actually going to try to remake The Wild Bunch, and I'm like, who is it, and how can I kill his ass?
Right. Fuck, you're going to kill me if I don't. Let me pick one.
You can't modernize Fulci, man.
Cat in the brain, because of the film elements and everything. Maybe that. Maybe that.
Possibly that, but that you couldn't touch Zombie at all.
No.
City
of the Living Dead, no. Yeah. Beyond, no. House by the Cemetery,
maybe Zombie 3, because that was that.
Zombie 3. We'll let that one because we know.
Well, he was sick. He was sick when why the fuck would you do that in the Philippines? It's hot as fuck out there. I mean, Sid Haig used to tell me how horribly hot and humid it was and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's we got to talk about Sid too. I mean, can I take this right now, Crank?
Go for it. Yeah.
Because we got to meet Sid like 2 months before he passed, man. I was in Kansas City. You could tell he was fucking sick. You could fucking tell. But he did his thing. He was signing. And I asked, I go, do you mind, you want to do an ID for our show? And he was like, absolutely, And I fucking swear to God, this guy lit up like a Christmas tree for this video and did it and delivered it. It was 4 seconds, Hey,
yeah,
you're watching Death Curse Society. That's why you see me. Did his face. And it was great. And that was the most alive he looked the whole weekend, you
The
know.
whole weekend. But I think it was because he was kind of performing.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yes, a lot of these guys, once I remember because this is the worst autograph I ever got, Soupy Sales,
Oh.
because he was sitting there, he just had a stroke, and they basically put the pen in his hand and pushed it across the thing. And I'm like, man, if I had known that, I would have just dropped the 20 and kept on going. Thank you.
Yeah.
But they had taken him to a show one night. And I was talking to one of the guys from the Uncle Floyd show, and he goes, yeah, when he got by the stage, he just lit up.
Yeah.
So, it's in their blood.
He was great. And then I have, this with this tribute magazine, dude, this is fucking amazing. This
Thank
is
you.
great. And you recorded this epic long interview with him. Are we ever going to see this in the light? Is it ever going to just, I loved reading the transcript.
I think I put it on the YouTube channel.
I think it's on YouTube, yeah.
Oh my
think so.
God. I can't wait to go hear this guy. I got to hear his voice. I could hear it reading it, but I want to hear it again,
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah,
No, I was always a fan going back. That was my drive-in thing, with the women in prison shit. Because I got my license. It's the 70s. I'm going to the fucking drive-in with a 6-pack, weed, and whatever. So I always, I basically grew up at the drive-ins watching him. And then when I was involved with Chiller, it was like I said, can we get Sid? Can we? He goes, I don't know how to contact him. So I guess he had done. I don't know what the fuck it was. It might have been Corpses. I'm not sure. But he was friends with Eric Caden from Hollywood Book and Poster. Unfortunately, Eric passed away years ago, too. Good guy. So they were talking, and Eric, had the connection with Chiller. So Eric, actually, they brought him in. We did Unconventional. That was his first Chiller show. That's where I met him. So he had come back a second time, and it was one of the tsunamis. I forgot which one. I guess it was near Thailand or something. It really fucked everything up. So he was basically donating a portion of his convention earnings to help those people. And then I did an auction, and I had a bunch of shit. And I walked over, I handed him like $200. He goes, "What's this for?" I said, "For what you're doing." So I don't know if I might have left Chiller at that point. Then he went up at Monster Mania. So, we were hanging out, bullshit. He was down here with Mosley. I think Joe Netter was there. And that was cool for a while. Then we came down. This was a topper night. I don't know what the fuck this guy was thinking. Have coffee and cake with the stars. So we're down there checking in. Sid comes up behind us with his wife, and he goes, "What's that?" And I said, "It's coffee and cake with the stars. That's what you're supposed to be doing tonight." And he looked at me, and he goes, "You guys got a suite, right?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "See you in 20 minutes. We were in there till like 4:00 in the morning smoking weed, and he was telling all the Philippine stories and great stuff. How he bought a Cove for $5,000, and then when Marcos got in, they took the Cove away. So, then I had this radio show on Jackalope with Todd Sheets, and I had my little. I don't know. That was, remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
that's way back. That's at the beginning of it all. Was it internet radio, right?
Right. Yeah. So I parted company with certain people, and Sid got fucked by certain people at another show. So he was a little tweaked off. He was supposed to go back down there, but he couldn't get what was owed him. So we were talking, and I said, something? I said, "You want to go on the show and, talk about this, tell the fans what's really going on?" So he was pissed. He goes, "Yeah." So the day before the show, he calls me up and he goes, "Listen," he goes, "I don't want to fuck my fans." He goes, "I'm going to suck it up and just go down there." I said, "Okay, cool." And he goes, "I'll still want to do the show though." So I'm like, okay. So we do the show live. We didn't have enough bandwidth for what happened. The fucker, we recorded it, but the fucker crashed. And that sort of put us on the map with that, because he kept coming on and off. Gary Kent would come on. Jack Ketchum would come on. When Ted Michaels was still alive, he'd come on. We had all these guys coming on.
Wow.
So I pitched the whole idea of this documentary to him. So he goes, "Okay, we got to do this." So he goes, "I got a problem." I said, "What's that?" He goes, "I'm supposed to do Rock and Shock. I can say that because they're gone. They're out of business." And he goes, "I got 2 stalkers." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, something going on. And he goes, "I got 2 stalkers." And he showed me the pictures. And I'm like, "Well, what do you want me to do?" And he goes, "Can you come up?" He goes, I'll pay for the room and shit." I said, Yeah, I said, but one of them's a chick. And I said, I don't hit chicks. I go, I got no problem with the other guy, but I don't hit chicks. So I go, but your wife has a friend who I know who would hit a chick. Her name's, so he knew it. So we went up and we were going to do this whole, interview, but it was too fucking crazy. But I was basically, the guy actually showed up. That's the other thing. He showed up the first night. Sid's losing his shit. So I said, he goes, I said, you know something? You got to go to the bathroom. I go in there, make sure nobody's in there. You go in. You got to eat. I sit there till you're done. And then he was yelling at the promoters and shit. And then the security guy goes over, do you want me to stay with you? And I said, dude, I got a fucking knife and a stun gun under my vest. I said, I ain't going to have a fucking problem at all. Nobody knew that, though. The guy left the next day, but I got to see how Sid operated. And Sid never charged anybody over $20 for the picture, never charged to have his picture taken with you. And it was this big thing where I got Mosley here and Sid here, and I'm in the middle. And the big question was, are you going to do another Rob Zombie thing with Devil? And Bill would go, Sid, are we going to do another Rob Zombie film?
Yep.
No, Bill, you know why? He goes, because we're both fucking dead. And they kept doing that all weekend.
Yep, we saw him do that a couple of times.
Yeah,
Great.
so we couldn't do the fucking interview. So I said, all right, we got to do something else. We'll figure it out. So we're gonna leave Sunday night. We open the door. It's fucking blizzarding out.
Mhm.
So he goes, "You're gonna drive in this?" I said, "Not unless you're gonna spring for another room." And he goes, "Have a good trip home." But I'm used to drive. I was used to driving and shit like that, so it really didn't bother me. But then they did something. Guy used to be with Schiller. He wanted to do something similar to Schiller in Jersey, and he called me up and he goes, "I remember you on the mic. I really want you to come back. I'll give you a table." So Sid called me up and he goes, we can do that down there. He goes, but I want you to interview me on stage. I said, all right. He goes, I want to talk about my, I don't know how many years it was, 50 years in show business. So I said, yes, okay. I got my shit together. But what I didn't know was Fangoria didn't want me there because they wanted to talk about Creature. And they said they were spotting him there. So now we're going back and forth. So I walk downstairs. I go, we got to straighten this out. And they go, who the fuck are you anyway? I'm like, oh, guess what? Now I ain't doing shit with you motherfuckers, So we went up and basically we did a great fucking, 50 years of show business. He was on the Bob Hope specials and shit like that. Shit with Lee Marvin. Lee Marvin got him in like 3 fights in one night because they were all drinking and shit. Just a bunch of really good shit. He was, Mary Hartman. He was in a TV series too, McNamara's Band, that didn't lasted 1 season. So tons of shit. So what do you think the first fucking question we got was when we opened up to the crowd? You're gonna do another Devil's Rejects movie? Yeah. So then we went out. I said, okay, let's fine. We had the Camry. We got the hotel room. We basically did a sit down 4-hour soup to nuts interview. And we were going to put it out. We had all this shit going on. And then the fuck up came. I don't know if you ever heard of Shock Stock up in Canada, Shock and Stock or whatever. They do a Grindhouse convention up there. They got a hold of me and said, you think Sid would want to do the convention? And I go, if you want to meet his price, probably, because I knew what his price was. So I called Sid and I said, these guys come to Wasteland. They seem to be cool. They said they got no problem paying you what you want to get paid. Okay. I thought everything was all right. It wasn't. They gave him a shitbag flight. He got profiled at the fucking airport and held there. He was very unhappy. He came home and it came on me. I couldn't get a hold of him. And I was talking to Eric Caden and he says, I had the same problem. When he thinks he's getting fucked over or disrespected, he just blows it off. So I never got to put the fucking thing out, even though I put money into it. And then I heard about the whole deal. He was hooking up with this manager, Chris Rowe. And I was telling him, I said, something? I think you can make a lot of money doing college campuses talking about, filmmaking and shit like that. I said, what haven't you done? Oh, yeah, my manager's all over that. Well, all his manager wanted to do was Romero and Malcolm McDowell. He saw Sid's lines and saw fucking dollar signs in his eyes. And he tied up Sid for a couple of years. I don't think Sid wanted to do the fucking Captain Spaulding thing and get charged whatever they were charging for a photo op. I don't think that was his idea.
He didn't even do that shit when we saw him. He was just
he was too frail.
No, he was dying when you saw him.
Yeah.
It was his 80th birthday party. That's what they were pushing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then I heard he got cancer. I think I know he had COPD. I heard he got colon cancer or something, but then he beat it. Then he reached out on Facebook under his real name. You know, we were, going back and forth. And then Amaranth called me up and she goes, he's in the fucking hospital. I said, what happened? Something happened. They put the mask on him and he puked in the mask and sucked it in his lungs.
Oh.
So he was starting to come back, and then we all got the bad news. It was over, and that was it. And honestly, fuck Rob Zombie for releasing that 3 from Hell. The man was sick. And fuck the guy who put Hanukkah together, too, because that was really bad. I mean, you know something? If you really respected this man, you should have just helped him pay his fucking medical bills. That's what you should have done. But that's my opinion. I mean, he was a good guy. I'm sorry there was a fuck up, but, shit happens, and actors and people in Hollywood are different than, a lot of us. So, I bear him no ill will, which just was a fuck up. That's all.
Yeah.
Hey Ziggy, show that magazine again that you have, the Sid Haig.
Yeah.
Now, is this still available anywhere?
Yeah, but buy it for Sid. Don't buy it for the fact that those people fucked me over big time.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
That's the saddest fucking thing I've ever seen right there.
I know.
Yeah, that's.
Nah, you know what it was too, and I sort of blame Tarantino and Rob Zombie for this. I mean, he was out of it. I don't know what he was doing. I don't think he was doing well. He said he was doing hypnotherapy or something like this. But somebody told me after he quit acting, he couldn't do anything, and he was basically, this is what I was told. I don't know if it's true or not. He was managing an apartment building for a place to live.
Oh wow!
Until Tarantino got him back with the Jackie Brown, I think, right?
Jackie Brown,
yeah. And then he gives him another one for Kill Bill, and that's fucking it. And then you're sort of leading this guy to believe that it's his second coming, and all he was getting was these shitty B movies, which was basically making him a full-time convention guest, for lack of better words.
Yeah. Which
probably isn't the way he wanted to go, but things don't work out the way you want it. And Michelle Bauer tipped me off to that 2 years ago when they basically would get her for a few $100s to do one scene and put her fucking on the box, and you think you'd buy the damn thing, and she's in it for 5 seconds, and she tipped me off on that. So they were doing shit with they get Sid for whatever his asking price was for 3 days, shoot all the scenes, and then edit it into a movie, and that was it. Put his name on the box and people buy it.
What was that? Frog one or something it was about Pot Farm or something that they were pushing. Remember, they were right across from our booth.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Dr.
last
Bong or something like that.
Last film, and it was like and he was in it for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Pete, I want to go back to 42nd Street for a second, because I think you mentioned that you started going up there around 68, 69, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I read in an interview earlier that you were likely to have been drafted for the Vietnam War.
Oh yeah, that was part of the whole deal.
Yeah.
I was classified 1A. This is what kills me today, because people walk around like they're entitled with some of the shit that's going on, which I don't want to get into. Mm-hmm. But basically, I had no way out. Right. I was classified 1A. So if they called me up, my fat ass was going over there. So that's when I said, something? Drinking, smoking, screwing, and watching movies. That was it. I was a huge patron of the prostitute arts, or whatever.
Yeah. Well, in
other words, I was a hooker aficionado.
Well, that
I had a membership card
that...
at the dating room on 42nd Street.
The dating room.
The dating room.
Well, that part of your life, though, when you kind of had a carefree lifestyle in the 70s, thanks to that, which led you to your introduction to Grindhouse and everything. Have you ever thought how your life might have been different if you had maybe chosen a different path when that was there? Like if you had dodged the draft, or
you know what it was? I never actively tried not to go. It was like I looked at it this way: the fucking card comes up, craps, you go. What are you going to do? I probably wouldn't have come back, but it was like I was aimless back then. I graduated high school with a fucking D-. Basically, my mother went in and said, something? You want to have another year? Let's do something. They hated me. I cut 67 days out of senior year. I let them see me, then I disappear. I got caught in the fucking movies all the time. That's where they'd find me, because my favorite Grindhouse growing up was the Embassy Theater, and it was 2 miles down the road. So I just walked there and catch the matinee. I didn't give a fuck. I was sort of like that. But the weird part was, and this shows you how shitty the educational system was back then. I had 2 chicks that talked me into going to college at nights. In my first semester, I was like 1 point removed from the dean's list because I had to take prep math. So I basically had a 3.67 average my first fucking semester in college. So fuck where I was. But, other forces, started. The gas shortage was one thing too, Couldn't get to school, and then I was getting disinterested, then the school lost funding, closed up, and then I had a wonderful 15-year run as a mechanic, learning it the hard way. And I got off work 11 o'clock, and guess where the fuck I went? Through the Lincoln Tunnel in New York.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, what was the major appeal to you for 42nd Street in that time? I mean, was it just the anything goes attitude?
Everything that was forbidden was there. See, the whole thing is everything's so wide out in the open today. I mean, I sold stag films when I was like 17 years old out of the back of my car. So I got a connection for them. So I was like dialed into that shit. And it was like, like I said, we didn't have no sex education. I was curious. So, I'd buy 20 stag films off one of these guys, called all my friends up. We'd watch them. I'd rewind them, put it back in a box and sell them. That was our sex ed.
Nice.
I even had the Linda Lovelace dog film and didn't know it was Linda Lovelace at the time.
Jesus Christ.
Jeez. Yeah. For any of those that want to know a little bit more about, what 42nd Street was like back then, check out a documentary called 42nd Street Memories, which is on Tubi right now. You're highly focused in on that.
The funny part was I didn't want to do that. He caught me. I didn't know who he was. I really didn't know this. Callum Waddell was so widely known and shit like that, but I had never heard him at this point. And I was trying to get the fuck out. I was moving to Ohio. So he kept pushing me. And I'm like, all right, because I had already gone over there and done 42nd Street Memories. I did that shot, but I got paid for that. So I go, what do you want to give me? And he goes, well, I can't give you nothing. I said, give me $10 for fucking gas. So I went over there. I mean, it was cool. And he just, he started the thing and I started, running my mouth as I do. And it worked out. Actually, the problem was there was no end to it when he finished it. I know I had said some shit, and I know a bunch of other people had said some shit, but when he put the finished product out, it didn't have the end. And I was like, okay, I don't want to see this go down the wayside. I emailed him and I said, how much you want for it? Maybe I'll buy it. And he goes, no, Bob from Grindhouse Releasing is going to pick it up. And him sticking it on pieces, man, it was like, that gave me a huge fucking boost.
Yeah.
I didn't know how many other fucking people were even involved in it. He got Frank at the last minute, I think.
Yeah, it was a very interesting documentary. I enjoyed watching.
He got just about everybody who was still above ground that was involved in that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Let me get a couple of viewer comments again here real quick. Patricia wants to know, hey, Pete, great to see you. What magazine did you enjoy writing for the most?
I got to say, screw. It was like one of those things. It was like a dream come true because I still got the only issue and it has my name on the fucking masthead over it. Something else on 42nd Street Pete. And I'm like, okay, you guys did fuck me at $700, but in the overall scheme of things, it was worth it.
Fuck, I remember Screw.
Yeah.
It wasn't Goldstein when I did it. Somebody else took it over.
Wow.
That's why I got it, because Al kind of fucked up.
Okay.
Oops, what was that one?
Nope. All right. James wants to know, what are your most memorable experiences of 42nd Street, and what are the most scary ones you've had?
Scary ones I had, I made the mistake of going into the Anco Theater, which is right on the corner of 42nd and 8th, when I was like young and sort of clean cut. I must have been like 16 or something like that. And I got a razor put to my neck and relieved of the $3 I had on me. So maybe clean cut didn't last too much longer after I got out of high school. I immediately grew the beard. I immediately stopped cutting my hair. And then actually there's a picture. It was weird. Somebody found this fucker and put it on. There's on Facebook, there's a 42nd Street, a 40 Deuce group. And I'm looking at this thing, and here's this bulky guy walking down like past the Harriman. I'm like, motherfucker, that's me. It was. Because I had this hat, used to have a white band around it, and I used to wear this bulky coat. And I was about 265 then. So, yeah, it was just weird. I think I put it in one of the books. We used it in one of the books. As far as other scary experiences, people sort of, they misinterpret a lot of shit that went on over there. And it was like, I remember there was something with Joe Bob Briggs saying that something about Halloween was wanted outside of the grindhouses and was more polished as a grindhouse film because people didn't want to go see these things in dangerous, shitty grindhouses. And I'm like, well, not for nothing. If they were that dangerous and shitty, they would have closed up. People were there. Families went there, during the day to see the movies. The real problem ones were the porn places because, the junkies would go into the bathroom and unscrew the light bulbs, and there's nothing more helpless than a guy standing there taking a piss, and they come up behind you and rob you. So,
yeah.
But,
that is a vulnerable spot.
Yeah, but, I'm not knocking Joe Bob, but it's like a lot of this stuff, these films didn't stay on 42nd Street because I think it's only come to light recently, and maybe I missed this whole thing, that Rick Sullivan of the Gore Gazette worked for Aquarius Releasing. And his deal was he brought all this shit into Jersey because Make Them Die Slowly was Aquarius and was playing at the Willowbrook Mall in the Twin Theater. He'd run up the Meadtown. I mean, they were all inner city grindhouses, but, it wasn't like all these films stayed there. I mean, you had all these distributors. You had Aquarius Releasing. You had whatever name Jerry Gross was going under at the point because it was Cinemation when he did I Drink Your Blood. And it was Jerry Gross Organization when he did Zombie, and he was bringing all this other stuff. Then you had the Michigans with Andy Milligan's stuff. You had Joseph Brenner and Associates with a bunch of Euro stuff like Torso and Man from Deep River. And then the real shitbags, Motion Picture Marketing. You never know who the fuck they were because you said MPM, Black Bar. It was Gates of Hell. MPM, Black Bar, Gates of Hell, Black Bar, then the real movie. And the other one, we just found this one out. I think it was Lorena found it. The guys that put out Trapped Them and Killed Them, a.k.a. Emmanuel and the Last Cannibals, it was like 4-star releasing or something. They were in Queens, New York. That was the only thing they ever did. So this stuff was basically footballed all over the place, especially around the metropolitan New Jersey areas.
Yeah.
Gates of Hell.
Another one I forgot, Independent International, Sam Sherman. They were all out of New York, so.
I know I've seen some of these titles in my travels, like in those videotape travels. Yeah. I know my Gates of Hell, though, was Paragon. It was by then.
It was originally Twilight of the Dead. Then all of a sudden that poster came down real quick.
Yeah. I got that on a fucking shirt, man. I love that. How they try to just dupe everything. The same zombie is on like 9 different zombie movies.
Yeah, I know. Because I was walking out of this one. I don't know what was playing there, but say Twilight of the Dead. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Then I went back to see it next week, and the poster switched over to Gates of Hell.
Right. It's the same goddamn thing, man. Oh,
Ziggy, you got another question?
You've written a few books already. We've been talking about it, including an autobiography called A Whole Bag of Crazy, a collection of short stories, Two-Fisted Tales of Times Square, and Gunfighters of the Drunken Master, a trilogy, which is a post-apocalyptic spaghetti western. All of these available on your website, 42ndstreetpete.net. And what is your method for writing, especially since these 3 examples are your polar opposites of each other pretty much?
It's the whole the Drunken Master thing started. I hate to give anybody fucking credit that I really can't stand right now, but it was Mike Watt. We were I think it was Horror Realm. And I was just bouncing this thing off, and I said, what if I came up with something like Mad Max meets El Topo meets The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly? So I was drinking heavily, of course, and at that point. And I went home, and I did like a 4-page thing, and I said, I'm going to stick it in the magazine, fuck it. And he said, why don't you play with it? So I came up with the basis, there's a shitload of homages to Westerns in general in there, like, the whole, the Art Stanton from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Grave Marker, shit like that. So I came up with this whole thing that we have these solar flares, which we just fucking had today again. Yes. that basically dry up everything on the planet except for bottled, things in bottles like liquor and water and stuff like that. So basically, you have this bunch of drunken assholes running around shooting each other, and it comes down. This one guy's the tough guy, the drunken master, who gets his gun hand crippled by El Rocho Rio, and he puts 100 cases of water as a bounty out there, which attracts all these other psychopaths, including the blind man, who's not really blind, he's just really fucking nearsighted, as I said in the prologue or something, and this big dog that he picked up somewhere. So it's like I built this whole thing up to where does this guy actually have the water or doesn't he? And all these fucking people, interacting and killing each other to get to the water. And then, it ended, there were some people left around. So a couple people that read it said, "You're going to do a sequel?" I'm like, I don't know. Then ISIS came along, and I'm thinking, okay. So I have basically the survivors of the first book, and some other people show up, a mafia don and his bodyguard, the sharpshooter, and they tell them that basically these ISIS fucking people are just on a rampage, killing everybody and enslaving people and actually practicing cannibalism and shit. So it was basically the survivors are coming into this compound, and they got to get fucking people that are fucking crazier than they are as backup. So they go out and they find this firebug who's actually sitting on a tanker of gasoline that he likes to set off now and then at night. These two ex-wrestlers whose kidneys are failing that are dying. This crazy preacher, Reverend Hellfire, and Sister Mary Gangbang. And it's basically put these people in line to stop the onslaught. And it gets crazier and crazier. So then that one, ended, and then why not use Donald Trump as the bad guy in the fucking last one? So I did this other whole thing, and it was like, I don't know if you remember Gary Clark.
Yes.
Steve Steele from Day of the Dead.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Gary was a huge fucking fan of this shit. And if two guys were polar opposites than Gary and me, I don't know what would be, but we were like brothers. And he was really into this shit. So I said, you know something, dude, I'm going to put you in the last book. He said, what do you mean? I said, your character's Steele. And he goes, yeah. And I go, yeah, you're going to get killed by a bear. He goes, let me get this straight. You're going to put me in this book and you're going to have a fucking bear eat me? And I said, yeah. And he goes, go for it. So we went for it. So that was this whole other thing. But see, the thing with Gary was I met him, I guess at Chiller and then at Monster Mania. And for whatever reason, we just clicked. And it's like I said, polar opposites. He's NFL, Republican, whatever. And I'm, this fucking, crusty street drifter that, doesn't really give a shit and hates politics in general. But we gelled. And he basically wanted me and him put the dogs in boarding, let my kids watch the dogs. We're going to go up and get a cabin and sit there and hammer out a fucking screenplay. He goes, because I'm serious, dude. He goes, this could put some serious money in your pocket. So he came out and did Wasteland. They did a Day of the Dead thing out here with Pilato was still around and all them. And we went out to eat and we kept in touch. We were always talking. One day he calls me up and he's slurring like he's drunk. And I'm like, what the fuck's the matter? He goes, Pete, I don't know. He goes, there's something fucking wrong. But I knew he had Lyme's disease. So about a week later, his wife calls me up and she goes, Pete, you're never going to hear Gary's voice again. He's got ALS. So Gary was like a dinosaur as far as the internet goes. We finally hooked him up and I was talking to him every fucking day, trying to keep it up, whatever, this and that and the other thing. I think I was in touch until I think 2 days before he passed away, I was in touch. And then I just knew it was fucking over. But now there was a guy who basically took care of the fans too, like Sid and that. But
I want to say he was scheduled to appear somewhere like right before he died as well.
Yeah, they were doing the 35th anniversary. And that was going to be he had it with the conventions. He'd been fucked over a couple of times and he said, something, we go in there was something with Rock and Chuck that they helped her out and she stuck it to him or something. So he said, I'm going to do the 35th. I want you to come out and, that's going to be it for me. And unfortunately, it was fast. He was really like, yeah.
Yeah. I was stoked to meet him,
Yeah. Oh, he was a hell of a guy. I was behind him in Pilato all fucking weekend. These two of them were screaming and yelling at each other. I'm like, holy Christ, But like I say, like we were like brothers. It was like the other Gary too. Unfortunately, Gary Kent. He was my first panel up at Wasteland with Ted Michaels. And another thing, we just clicked, and we were always talking. And then I know he was having a lot of health problems, and they keep saying they put you in a rehab. They don't put you. They put you in a fucking place to die. He had no way to communicate except for the phone, and sometimes he wouldn't pick up. So the guy, Joe O'Connell, who did his documentary, I got a hold of him and I said, look, I got a fucking tablet here that I bought. And I said, I'm a fucking dinosaur. I don't know how to do this shit. I said, would it help if I mailed it down? So I mailed it down. They get him on Facebook. He could interact with people. But then, like I said, then I got the message from his son, night before he died that he passed away. He just beat bladder cancer or something, and he found something else in him, and he goes, enough. He was 80 something.
Yeah.
So
that's I was going to ask. So I had you been, Pete, there was some interest to turn these into film. Some of these stories you've written, these books.
Yeah, Gary was there. I reached out, but I don't know who to get a hold of with this thing. And then I did this one movie, Pollen, based on something I wrote, and of course he stuck me in it. I said, I'm too old to play this thing, but I would like to see it done. I think, have you read it?
I have not.
You haven't read it, okay.
It will be done. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not blowing my own horn or something, but I reread this stuff. Sometimes I'm like, something. I said, with all the fucking shit that's out there, I said, here you got credible characters, people you can get involved in. You got some people that are total fucking scumbags that you want to see them fucking die, and nobody's picking up on this shit yet. And like I said, I'm not blowing my own horn because I'm not full of myself, but I'm looking at this stuff and I'm like, I don't think anybody's ever done anything like this.
And the third one's funny. Nobody apocalypse like I apocalypse. This will be the best apocalypse ever. That I can tell you.
Well, you know what I did with the third?
I sort of, from the
with the third one, everybody ends up fucked up. I mean, it got bad. And like only two guys are able to get back to the other place. The blind man and his dog and the girl, they're all fucked up. And he said, basically, leave us. So I sort of left it open because you never know. You just never know.
Right.
Sure.
With the other one, Two-Fisted Tales of Times Square, it was like I had written this story years ago about a werewolf who was actually a bounty hunter. And this was when, remember that shit going around about chicks drugging guys and cutting their kidneys out and shit like that? Yeah, Two-Fisted Tales.
There we go.
Right. Yeah. So I had written this like years ago, and then I got this whole bug up my ass about, okay, how much weird shit were you involved in, and can you write stories about it? So I again weaved a bunch of characters that sort of walk in and out of each story. Some are like always there, but then I wrote one, let me see, I got this vampire queen that's brought back from Europe and held in a house of bondage, and that turns out to be really bad. And then I got a mob fixer who's really, really good at what he does. Then I got this hitman who gets himself involved in something he really shouldn't. And that was a tough one to write because I actually had to do a whole fucking card game and try to remember the fucking hands they were playing at the end. So then you got a dog that walks around protecting streetwalkers. You got a dead hooker trying to push this drunk into like stopping the serial killer to just grab two runaways. So there's a little something for everybody in there, It's interesting. I'm working on a second one with that too.
Nice.
But since all this bullshit that's been going on in my actual life with my dogs and other things, I just have writer's block lately.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
We're even trying to get a fourth Grindhouse Resurrection out.
Okay. Someone was asking about your dogs earlier. So
That was my mom. How are the dogs?
Yeah.
I just got her. I just brought her down today to get the stitches out. She seems fine. I mean, she ain't got no tail anymore. It's kind of weird looking at this little nubby thing wiggling around, but it is what it is. I mean, it fucking cost me $4,000, but it's better than having a dead dog. So.
I don't think.
Yeah, I think I did a video on that too about, if you're going to adopt a dog, and I figured this out over the course of having one for 13 years and one for 9 years. You're looking at 50 fucking grand. If you're not willing to lay out 50 grand over the period of 10 years, don't adopt the fucking dog.
Right.
Sure.
Because my other one's got to get a shot every month for $106 for the arthritis.
Oh, jeez.
Because right after I get good medical news about me, because a year ago they told me I had a fucking aneurysm that could explode, and then I go back and they find out, well, gee, we were kind of wrong. Nothing wrong. Then I go home and find a dog that can't get up. And one dog just walked in here now. You can't see her though.
Well, I think Lorena mentioned this earlier, but you're also currently working on a second autobiography, One Last Toke. What can you tell us about this work? And are these new stories from
Yeah, this
like
is all
the
new
second half
stuff.
of your life?
There was another, I just touched on the convention thing, the first book.
Mhm.
And then I got involved in, professional indie wrestling for like 10 years. So I had something with that. And then, other, more crazy fucking women I got involved with, more Grindhouse stories, more adventures with Big Al,
You were kind of ranting in this recent blog post though about somebody being irritated that they weren't using an authorized print or something. Can you explain a little bit more about
Yeah.
that?
A friend of mine, guys come up sometimes and help me out and stuff. He was telling me, he goes, they ran this thing down. I think it was right down the street here, about 20
Mhm.
minutes away. They were going to run Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and Day of the Dead. And he was all excited. He's got a kid that's autistic, and the kid was happy, excited about it. So he posted it on one of these dead groups, and someone jumped all over him saying you should boycott the show. It's not the authorized print, this and that and the other thing. And I'm like, okay. I've known a lot of these people for over years, Kyra, Sean's nice lady and all that. Bill Heinzman was a great guy, but there's a lot of beef behind the scenes because they actually do feel they got fucked over by not copywriting it. I'm like, okay, you tried to put it out as Night of the Anna, whatever the fuck it, Anubis or something like that, like anybody would know what the fuck you were talking about. Then you tried Night of the Flesh Eaters, and you got a cease and desist from Mike Rips, who put out the original Flesh Eaters. Then you did Night of the Living Dead, you didn't copyright it. So honestly, whose fault is that? And like I said, I did the auction for the chapel. I had them on my radio show raising money and shit like that. It's like, what you guys didn't make on that movie, you certainly made up on your convention appearances. So I don't understand the beef, and just trying to shit all over somebody's enjoyment of going to see all these 3 films at once. That's fucking bullshit. I'm sorry. Some people act like they own some of this shit, and the bottom line is nobody owns it. It's all our shit. These are our fucking films. Nobody owns them. These are ours. We have the right to see them in any shape, form that they're in. And it's like, I'm looking to do something right now, and I can't find a copyright. I'd like to do. It's going to cost me a shitload of money, but certain shit, slips through the cracks. And I always wanted to put something out that wasn't a fucking porn film just to prove I could do it. I mean, I'm the first guy who put it on an 8mm porn Blu-ray, and guess what? It didn't fucking sell. Because nobody needs to see 8mm porn in HD.
Right.
Not in these days.
I did it, so what the fuck? But
Yeah.
But
Let's see here. Lorena wants to know, didn't you introduce Elvira to Luna Vachon?
oh yeah, that was actually.
You want to tell that story?
I got something here. Wait a minute, let me find this fucking thing. Proof.
There it is. Wow.
She was a chiller.
Ah, yeah.
I was a lot redder than and had hair.
Colonel.
Oh, here's another. Here's the other one too. Me with Ox.
Oh, Ox Baker. Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
And the weird part is you can't see behind here. When we blew the picture up, I'm like, do you know who that is? And they're looking at me and go, what are you talking about? I said, that's Bernard Getz, the subway shooter. He was at the first show.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, nobody saw him. But he came up and he was behind me when I took the picture with Ox.
Yikes.
Yeah. Oh, the Elvira thing is interesting. I had to hire a guy. I was head of security for Chiller for a while.
Mhm.
So they were bringing in Elvira, and they said that they needed, somebody big. So I had this friend of mine, Lou Garcia. He was pretty big. So I said, hey, Lou, what are you doing this weekend? You want a bodyguard to Elvira? So he only lasted Friday night. I mean, she had a line around a fucking block, for crying out loud. So, all right, now I got it. I got her Saturday. So I walk in and they go, where's Garcia? And I said, you ain't got him, you got me. It's all right. So I'm with her, it's cool, did the whole thing. Went down, got shit-faced at the party. Sunday morning, somebody walks out and goes, there's 3 people who want to talk to you in the parking lot. I'm like, oh, fuck, what did I do now? I think like a Fifth Absolute a night, like back then. So it's Luna Vachon, her husband, who was Gangrel, became Gangrel, Dave Heath, Vampire Warrior, and Jim Neidhart. And they said, can you get us inside so we can sign some autographs? I said, yeah, a friend of mine's a complete mark. He'll give you half his fucking table, you know. So Luna goes up to me. She goes, can I meet Elvira? And I said, let me see what I could do. So she wasn't staying at the hotel because it was a stalker. She was staying in New York, so they kept bringing her back and forth. Plus, I think she just had a kid or something. So we bring her through the kitchen. The cooks are going fucking nuts because she's in full gimmick and shit like that. So I get in the elevator and I go, how would you like to meet Luna Vachon? And she goes, what's a Luna Vachon? I said, trust me, you'll like this. So I brought him in. I wish I'd taken a fucking picture. But yeah, I hooked him up. It was funny.
Nice. Patricia's got a good one here. If you could create a Grindhouse festival with 5 movies, what would you pick and why?
5 movies. What would I pick and why? I would go with, let's see, you want to get really sleazy with the Grindhouse thing? I would go with the Cutthroats 9 because it's really fucking disgustingly brutal. Zombie for, because it's a classic. Let me think. You want to go all kinds of Cannibal Holocaust would have to be in there.
Okay.
Let's see. We got those 3, right? I'm up to 3.
That's 3, yes.
3. Damn, I'm trying to think. It's got to be bad. Forced Entry. Got to throw a disgusting porn film in there. And Women's Prison Massacre. Yeah.
Right.
Because you got to have a women's prison movie in there.
There you go.
And Forced Entry is probably one of the most buzz killers I found the fucking movie, actually.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. This is another fucking... I'm with, alternative cinema with my DVDs. They really, we're partners in the DVD, that I do, the films, the 8mm shit. So we had a gentleman's agreement when eBay was a lot of fun and had all kinds of nice smut on it that we wouldn't butt heads. So Forced Entry was up there and I saw his name next to it and I called him up and I said, whatever you do, you have to get that fucking print. And he goes, why? I said, because nobody fucking has that thing. I said, it disappeared. I said, it's notorious. So he got it, and I wrote the liners, did it on camera. He got in touch with Sean Costello, and Sean Costello knocked me out of the box. So I never got the credit on it, but I was the one who found it. And it's probably one of the most reprehensible films ever made. It's actually Sean Costello, okay, he's a dick. A lot of people fucking hated him and shit. I'm friends with Long Gene Silver and those guys, and they're tight with him. He basically created the first Vietnam vet on a rampage film. And the way he did it was he used Harry Reams, and Harry Reams had trouble finding work for a couple of months after that one, I think. If the Harry Reams character looked at a crowd, it was a bunch of Vietnam villagers. It would just turn into that from newsreel footage. If he saw cops, they were the Viet Cong, and so on and so on. So he having these fucking fantasies and raping and killing people. So
good Lord.
Yeah. And it just didn't work, right? People said that thing might have lasted a week and was pulled because people just, especially Vietnam vets that were working the live sex shows, they didn't like it at all. So, but yeah, it's unique because of what it is. It's a pre mustache Harry Reams. Like the same when he was in Let Me Die a Woman. And he turned around and he'd have the mustache on. I'm like, okay. I guess he ran right over and did that other one. He was in that, he bounced around a lot. He did the Milligan one too, Flesh Pond on 42nd Street.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Straight rolls.
Now you've done a lot of writing for magazines throughout your career. Have
Yeah.
you ever thought about compiling all of those writings into some kind of collection to record that segment of film history? Like, I think that would be a fantastic retrospective.
I did the one with, I started out, because I was, with Schiller for so long. When they started the magazine, I was like a regular contributor there. And that's where I started, like, honed it a little bit. Then, first was a something weird thing because he had asked me after we had done, with the reviewing, he goes, did you ever write? I said, oh, I could try. I basically gave Frank Henenlotter 36 handwritten pages. I didn't know how to fucking type. And Frank loved it. So then I'm like, okay, I better learn to type. So little by little, I'm self-taught. I mean, I still type with one hand. I'm like fucking Chico Marx with the fucking piano, going like that. But that's the way it works. But it was something I always wanted to do, but I never thought I would do it. And then, I kept getting, I got the Nick Phillips interview and Ultraviolet. I did Vanessa, Del Rio for the second Blue Book.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was doing some stuff for Uncut for a while, the British mag. And Screw was the one I really wanted to do because when they got me over there. But like I said, this guy didn't know what the fuck he was doing, and they couldn't pay anybody. They went under. And I'm trying to think who else I did for. I did something for Shock Cinema. One thing for him.
Oh, okay. All right. How about this? Gina wants to know, if you were to collaborate with one writer, who would it be and what would you want to do?
One writer. Okay. It would have been Jack Ketchum. Because
Nice.
What I didn't know was I met Jack Ketchum at Schiller Theater in the early days, and Jack grew up in Livingston, New Jersey. I grew up in West Orange, New Jersey. The two towns butted against each other. Me not knowing, I was getting all my monster magazines and comic books from his parents' candy store. So when I met him at Schiller, we clicked, and he liked what I did and encouraged me. He was the one who gave me a lot of encouragement with the gunfighters and stuff like that. But yeah, I would definitely collaborate with him.
Nice.
It's a shame he's not here anymore. But it was sad. I had called him up when I started Grindhouse Purgatory, and I hadn't talked to him for a while. And he goes, "Pete, I got throat and neck cancer." I'm like, "Holy shit, man! Let me send you something to read." So I sent him this stuff over there. He got in remission, and we wanted to get him up at Wasteland. So we got him up. We did a Q&A Friday night. He sold out of everything he fucking had Friday night.
Nice.
So we got the other thing was he was outside and he was smoking a cigarette. And I'm like, son of a bitch, you just beat this shit. What are you smoking a cigarette for? So his flight was late. So we hung around. We had dinner. We shot the shit, and that was it. And then we were talking, and then I said, "Feel like writing something for Grindhouse Purgatory?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'll let you know." 2 weeks later, I got a phone call. He was dead. I guess it came back.
Man.
I guess that's why he was smoking a cigarette, because he figured, what the fuck,
Yeah.
Yeah, right at that point.
Sort of like Robert Mitchum when he died. He was laying on lung cancer, and he was fucking smoking Pall Malls right up until the end.
Well, you briefly mentioned one of your newer projects, Grindhouse Resurrected, a magazine, and that you're working on the 4th issue. What can readers expect in the 4th issue? You want to preview that for us?
You know what it was? We had a lot of stuff that we couldn't do with 3 because you got it there. Okay, I got a pile of shit here. I should just pay you to hold it up.
I got one over there too, but
a friend of mine that I knew from Schiller Theater, Bill Karschmidt, what I didn't know was he used to be one of the flyer guys on 42nd Street, handing out the flyers for the massage parlors and stuff. So he had some good stuff. So he has about 6 articles in the can. I had a bunch of shit that we didn't use. So I still been, writing some other stuff. So we're just trying to, see how we can go. I actually want to go back to the same printer if I can. I'm trying to get I actually got a hold of, Eric from Midnight to order some more issues of what I have here. But I want to talk to him about formatting and, getting it over to that printer because I like the way the fuckers come out, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to sell maybe 200 of an issue. I don't care as long as I break even. People seem to like it. We're getting the stuff out there. We're talking about the shit that we like. So, and I basically kept most of the guys from, Grindhouse Purgatory because there was a coup to get them over on their side or something like that, and they made up this thing. I was retiring. Yeah, retiring to what? It's like the line from the Wild Bunch. I'll just do this one last thing and back off. Back off to what? There's nothing to back off to. I mean, fuck, I'm 71. What am I? You know what somebody told me? I have to go by this years ago when I had my store and went under. I had a video store and I got fucked over. And this friend of mine walked up to me and he goes, "Whatever you do, you're a shark." And he goes, "When sharks stop swimming, they drowned. Keep swimming." So I know too many guys that just fucking, went home, sat home, didn't do shit, and then you get the fucking phone call, they're dead because they just weren't active. And in the pandemic, oh man, that fucking killed a bunch of my friends. Sucked.
Yeah, got a bunch of people, that's for sure.
Yeah. So
Ziggy, what else you got? You got another question down there?
Well, just to build on that, what is with the band on Amazon? What happened?
I don't fucking know. Lorena submitted this is the Make Them Die Slowly issue because we didn't have the other one. All right. It was okay with everybody. We didn't have a fucking problem till they gave it to Amazon. Amazon rejected it. I'm like, what the fuck? For what? Nudity? There was 2 nude pictures in the fucking thing. It wasn't like I threw a broccoli shot in there, for fuck's sake. So now it's like, then Drafted Digital said you can't submit this anymore. So that's why I figured, let me see if I can go back to these guys. I mean, they're only an hour away. I got no problem driving there. Or if I can't drive Gonzo, me and Lorena's met Gonzo. He's my best friend and personal trainer. So we get in a lot of trouble together. But yeah, I got no problem going down and picking up the mags. I mean, people want, and who else did me solid? I'll give a shout out to him. Grindhouse Releasing. They threw it on their email.
Nice.
And the FuseBoxShow.com.
Okay.
That's who basically they put the website up. I don't know what to do. I had that domain name. It ran out. I'm like, fuck it. Nobody wants to help me. Fuck it. I'll just, give it up. And then we did a couple shows with him, and he says, I can do this for you. So he did, which I appreciate. So Mark, thank you. And the Fusebox crew up there. Good little show. Check it out. I got a thing on it called the Grindhouse Minute every month. We picked like 12 films that were like, pertinent, and we talked about them for like a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, I love shit like that, man.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want this shit to go away because, I honestly feel this stuff's important no matter how shitty people think it is. And obviously it ain't that shitty because you got a bunch of, boutique video companies making bank off the stuff now. Like I wanted to spend $40 for the Steel Book of Crocodile. I didn't. I didn't want to give them any fucking money. I found it on eBay. You know something? I'm sitting there looking at it going, yeah, I remember when this played in 42nd Street. It was like the typical, how many trunks of a car did this thing sit in before it got here? And other than the fact that it makes absolutely no fucking sense because they hint about an atomic explosion, but you never see nothing. And when they talk about it, they're focused on glasses on a table. And then in some scenes, the croc's the size of Godzilla. In other scenes, it's like this big. So yeah, but it's I'm a sucker for reptiles for some. I've had enough of them. So
what are some more current movies that have a little bit of the Grindhouse aesthetic? Are there any filmmakers that kind of subscribe to that kind of filmmaking still?
No, it ain't Quentin Tarantino. That's for fucking sure.
I was going to say, how did you feel about the big when they were out there, Rodriguez and Tarantino going, Grindhouse, here it is. This is how it was.
You know something? I went to see it in the theaters, all right? Rodriguez gets it, but Rodriguez will admit he never set foot in a Grindhouse. Tarantino claims he grew up in one, and when you do the math, when you do his birth date, I'm sure that somewhere in Tennessee is a real hotbed of Grindhouse activity as far as maybe back then, but the math doesn't add up. It's sort of like the whole Bill Landis thing. The math doesn't add up.
I think Tarantino probably got a lot of things on VHS tape, and
he was a video store clerk who watched a lot of movies. Right. That was it.
Right.
It's sort of like the what was it? It Happened in Hollywood. Was that the one?
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
That's Gary Kent's story.
Yeah.
He took Gary Kent out to lunch and picked his brains. Gary never got any credit for it.
Yeah.
I even went on record, okay?
I've heard that story somewhere.
I said, I will stop bashing Quentin Tarantino for the rest of my life if he just gives Gary a part in this movie. Because Burt Reynolds had just died and he was supposed to be playing George Spann. Gary, ever the gentleman, said, give it to Bud Cardos because Bud looks like George Spann at this point. Never heard nothing. So I think they flew him out for the premiere, but that was the whole story was told. They told it on my radio show because Bud Cardos beat up Tex Watson. That was the whole thing. It was like they didn't know anything about the murders or anything. And Bud was shooting this movie. So this was after they hired Manson to repair a dune buggy, and he kept jerking him around. Finally, they surrounded him and says, something, fix the fucking thing. So Bud's directing this movie, and Tex Watson's hanging around bugging the girls. So Bud walks over. He goes, I'm only going to tell you once. Leave. So Tex had these big 6-shooters on. And, okay. Bud turns around. He's fucking back. Bud grabs him by the back of the neck and the seat of his pants and throws him down a ravine. All of a sudden, you hear bam, 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 bam. And he goes, holy fuck, those guns were real. If I had known that, I would have never done that. Yeah. But they were out there when, the whole thing happened. They said when they got back, they're like, holy shit, we didn't know. So like I said, Tarantino took Gary out to lunch, picked his fucking brains, and made a movie out of it.
Man.
The same way he basically took an Italian spaghetti Western legend and made him a black escape slave.
Yep.
Because that's the way it works in Tarantino land. And the fucked up part about that was somebody had approached Franco Nero about doing a sequel to Django, a third. Because there was only one legit sequel, Django Strikes Again, that was shot down in South America. All the other ones were basically, that movie was so hot in Europe that anything with Franco Nero became a Django movie. So they were actually going to do one, and then when they pitched it, they said, well, no, we can't do that because now Django's a black man. And I'm like, what the fuck, Now, the guy's never had an original idea, and he's basically stolen every, the whole Reservoir Dogs, that was City on Fire. The Chow Yun-Fat movie.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
But people buy it.
Yeah. Since we're on the idea of filmmakers, Patricia wants to know, what are your thoughts on Eli Roth?
He's in bed with Tarantino.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe his heart's in the right place and shit like that, but there was no way, shape, or form he should have made that. What the fuck was it? Green Inferno or something like that?
Right.
I mean, come on. The only reason, see, this is what these fucking guys do not understand. The only reason this shit worked was because nobody ever did it before. I mean, there was only about 6 really good cannibal movies, if you want to even put the word good in there. Make Them Die Slowly. Manual on the Last Cannibals, Cannibal Holocaust, Jungle Holocaust, or Last Survivor, or Carnivorous, or whatever other 7 fucking names they gave it. And what was the other one? Eaten Alive, which was another one they basically was piecemealed together and shit. So, and I can't even talk about the Jesse Franco one. Sorry. It's like, okay, the cannibals attack and we show autopsy footage and then we show a pile of guts. That's a fucking movie.
Besides the
Holocaust. I just got to say it real quick. The Cannibal Holocaust. I mean, they marketed us on that one saying, it's real. They really killed these people. When we were kids, that's what they were saying.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's how they got us at the video store.
But Deodato was smart. Part of those people's contract was to disappear for a fucking year. Unlike the one, you ever see Emmanuel in America?
Manual in America. I remember they had the whole fucking series at this little ship.
Well, this whole thing was, I guess in 76 you could put hardcore footage into European films. That was like accepted. So what D'Amato had done, Joe D'Amato had this fucking, he shot this fake snuff film shit in like 16 millimeter, but then he hit it with sandpaper and blew it up to 35. And they released it on 42nd Street as Brutal Nights. Now, I remember briefly being very drunk and seeing some of this shit and going, what the fuck am I looking at? The snuff footage looks fucking real. And he lost his passport for 5 years because of that, because one of the chicks claimed she was traumatized. I mean, there is nothing they don't do. And I was like, going, okay, this is really fucked up.
That's the point, though. That's it's why we're here.
Well, that was the whole thing. They spread, the Catholic Church spread that rumor. And Dave Friedman told me that basically they went with it and they made fake snuff films. And I got one. It's basically how to part you out of $9 worth of quarters because it's 2 reels. And they started, it starts innocent. Guy picks up chick outside, goes to shitbag apartment. They screw. And the real one. Then it picks up again. And we're basically down to the last 2 minutes when this big muscle guy comes in with a switchblade and the other guy runs out. And he basically stabs the chick with this retractable knife. Fake blood, the end. You just got fucked. But I wrote this in the book, and I'll stand by this. There was a place, if you walked up 42nd Street to 7th Avenue, There was an island in the middle of 7th Avenue, and there was this shitty white building called Crossroad Books. Now, we were over there one night because my friend Jimmy wanted to see a peep show for his birthday. And miracle upon miracle, he decided to drive, which he never does. We went over there with a van. We found a parking space. So we got about 75 cents. We go in across. Ever see 8 millimeter? That film, that show, 8 millimeter?
Yeah.
The Cage one?
Yeah, that's the snuff one. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's what we walked into, that kind of environment. These big peep show booths. Girl with dog. Girl with horse. Girl with pig. Oink, oink. This is written on these things. And then Snuff, the bloodiest thing that was ever on 42nd Street. So we're like, okay. So 3 of us squeezed in the booth, which really wasn't fucking cool, but fuck them anyway. First, it starts off with her getting whipped, and there's blood trickling down her back and shit. And then a little more of that. And then all of a sudden, you see a steak knife get inserted into somewhere where a steak knife should never go. They're out the fucking door. I'm like, okay, I think I've seen enough. And people always call me out on this. And I said, you know something? I was an apprentice butcher back in the day, another stupid ass job that I took that I fucking hated and left. But I know raw meat when I see raw meat. And I actually have somebody tracking this fucker down because he says, this might have come out of Europe. And it might have been some film called The Butcher. And I've said, dude, all I know is I saw what I saw when I saw it. And I said, it stuck with me for what? 50 fucking years? You know?
Damn.
You know, like, I think somebody said, you know, some of these films you watch them, you know, you're marked for life. It sort of stains your soul and shit.
Sure.
But yeah, that place was. Then they had the whole thing where, oh yeah, that the Women Against Pornography firebombed it in the middle of the night. I'm like, no, that ain't what happened. It's like whatever was going on with these places, they had some kind of deal with the city, and I guess if they got really out of hand, they got the phone call. And it's like, okay, it's got to go. And the weird part was, guess what it became? A police substation.
The irony.
Yes.
Well, besides the 4th issue of Grindhouse Resurrected and new second autobiography, what else is in the works for you?
You know, I do the YouTube channel like three days a week. Try to do something with it, you know. There's a lot of stuff I'm rediscovering now because of Tubi. And I did that whole thing where I held up that book and just basically banged out a shitload of character actors without no references. Then I got one. I think it's airing. Is it airing tonight? No, it's airing Wednesday. I found a couple crime films, and one of them had Broderick Crawford. It's The Mob or something like that. And the two heavies are basically Ernest Borgnine and Neville Brand. And this is like maybe their third film appearance. And the weird part was Ernest Borgnine was in this. His first film was The China Co-Star, and he was Hung Chang. He was a Chinese guy, which just shows how, you know, this weird casting, because even in this film, they do this union thing going on. And here's a real young Charles Bronson, uncredited, with 3 lines. On the other side, here's a real young Frank Dakova, Chief Wild Eagle, with 3 lines. And the way I figured it, Bronson and Frank worked together like 4 times. They were in this, Machine Gun Kelly, and they were both Indians and Run of the Arrow, running around with loincloths. And I'm like, oh, Bronson was always buff anyway. And I think he was in The Stone Killer, too. But it's just interesting how these, you know, Bronson's first credited role was Crime Wave, and he was Charles Buczynski.
Yeah, I do. I think I remember.
And I just found another guy I really like, Ted DeCorsia. Fuckers in everything, and has played just about every. He played a mobster. He plays this mafia guy. He's played Indian chiefs. He's played fucking outlaws. He's played pirates. It's like, the guy's incredible. That's why I really dig character actors, and we don't have any of them anymore. You know, other than, you know, I got tight with William Forsythe when he was doing shows for a while, and we used to talk about this all the time. You know, guys like Lee Marvin and shit like that. And I said, dude, you're up there right with him. I said, you're a fucking chameleon. You can play any of these guys. You know.
All right. Well, cool. Ziggy, you got anything else to get in before we let him go for the night?
Let's see. We're not doing
the list. The list is done.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll figure that.
That was the list. Oh God.
What I just got to know, like, when you just say "fuck it, man," I'm going to my go-to fucking when you need that, what you need, what's the movie or what's the handful of movies you gotta have that are in regular rotation, man?
You know, I went into I got all my DVDs in my bedroom, you know, for whatever. That's my place they fucking fit. And I said, let me pull out the 100 I can't live without. I couldn't fucking do it.
Wow.
But something that I will go back to all the time, the Wild Bunch, because when I first saw it, okay, 69, I didn't have a driver's license. I must have taken a bus to see this thing. It's a Sunday afternoon. All right. I sit through the whole thing and walk over to the payphone and I call my mother and I said, I'm not going to be home for dinner. I got to see this again. I sat through it again. So it really blew me away. And like, I'm waiting for the fucking, whatever they're going to do. It's still missing a scene. And the scene was filmed. When the bounty hunters drive right away, you hear the gunshots. That was filmed. L.Q. Jones had a still of it going off the horse. For some reason, nobody, they're going to dig it up for a special edition, I hope, but so far nobody's found it.
If it exists still, you know, I mean,
Right.
No, they shot it. It's like, you know, some of this weird shit is like, you know, they found the negative for Zombie in South America. I'm like, how the fuck did that happen? That's where Lustig found it.
so
You know, there was another thing I just watched. It's like, I had to get a download from something weird. The Pickup. Dave Friedman's in this fucking movie. He's a gangster. Him and Bob Crusay, and Lee Frost directed it. And Wes Bishop's in it. And it's like, okay, all these guys were in together. And Dave's actually got a sex scene. He's actually banging some chick. And it's a really good fucking movie. But it was lost for 30 years. Mike Vraney found it in Denmark with Danish subtitles burned into it. So it's never over. I keep finding shit. Somebody even said with the magazine, they go, what are you going to do? You going to rehash stuff from Purgatory? I said, no. I said, there's enough stuff still out there. I mean, there's always something I might have overlooked. Like, you know, when you're growing up, you have a different mindset. You know, like, yeah, like, you know, I want to see monster movies, but I want to see the monster right away. So if it didn't show up right away, I get fucking bored. Now I'll go back and say, you know, something, I fucking missed something good. It was like, the fuck was the Cincinnati Kid. I hadn't seen that in years. Okay. I watched that and I'm like, okay, this is really cool because he just fucking destroyed his ass playing cards. And I used to play poker a lot. So I could identify with that. Not that I won, but you know, what the fuck.
I love the ending of that when that jack gets flipped over and it's just the camera and the way it just kind of goes around the room. And fuck yeah. I've been there, man. I felt that pain. They nailed it.
You know, that's what I mean. They don't make shit like that anymore. They don't make shit where you can get emotionally invested in it anymore. It's like I said with, you know, even with when they did the Magnificent Seven, you know, that and the Dirty Dozen, those were another game changer because they created the whole ensemble cast deal where you meet these guys, you get to know them, you get to care about them, and you're really fucking pissed off when they get killed. And that's sort of like what I did with Gunfighters. You know, you got a bunch of people that, you know, you get to know after a while, and it's like, oh shit, he got killed. I got yelled at for Two-Fisted Tales by one guy, and he goes, of all the fucking people you had to kill, it had to be her. I'm like, oh, shit, Christ. I wasn't going to do it either, but as I'm writing it, like, I just get motivated by certain shit. And as I'm writing this thing, and I'm thinking, you know something? Nobody would think you're going to do this, so do it. And that's what I did. But I like to build on certain shit. Like I'm sort of not into the horror end of this other one I'm doing. It's like I came up with some weird shit. Like, you know, we used to get drunk and talk about things like, okay, what was the best way to get rid of a body? And I said, well, if you live in New Jersey, you go cut the body up and put it in coolers and put ice on it, go down to the Jersey Shore, 3 o'clock in the morning, and rent a boat and go crabbing. Because nothing will strip a body quicker than crabs. You just go way the fuck out and start dropping the shit over the side. I made a fucking story about it. That these guys accidentally kill a Fed. Now they got to get rid of a body. So they all go down to the Jersey Shore. And then 2 of the guys get into it because they're actually catching crabs and they're running on a bait. And he goes, give me the guy's hand. Put the guy's hand up. Oh, look, I got one on each finger. So I come up with, you never know. I just, like even when I was doing Gunfighters, I'd wake up in the middle of the night and think, oh, fuck. What would happen if you put cut up razor blades in a fucking shotgun shell? Let me write this down. And then I come up with it,
That's why, Pete, you're one fascinating dude, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
thank you again for joining us and telling us some tales and taking us down to the 42nd Street that hopefully everyone remembers, not the Disneyland version that's there today. So
Yeah, it's funny. I remember this quote by Rudy Giuliani saying how all that neon and stuff made everything look what the hell was this? Garish, I think the word was. I'm like, you go down there now, it's like fucking daylight with all the fucking lights they got on there now. At least these things had some kind of weird fucking ambiance to it. Yeah. I used to sit there and go, I'm just going to work on my neon tan tonight, you know. Hey, if you guys ever want to get me back on, you know, I'm game.
Yeah. We'll definitely talk about it and figure out something. Maybe whenever one of your new books comes out or something like that, we can.
Yeah, Lorraine has been working on the second book. I think she said she's got it, you know, edited to where she wants to get it edited, and then we got. I got a bunch of pictures I wanted to stick in this one because I got you know that thing and you know whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Here's what's this one? Here's Marilyn Chambers.
Holy there we go.
Nice. Yeah, she was good people. So I don't think I have more over here. Oh yeah, here. Taurus Santana killing me.
Yeah.
She was lifting me off the fucking floor.
Wow.
She was no joke.
Nice.
Then she wanted to do something with involving tables, and I'm like, no, we're not doing that shit. I'm not getting put through a table. You want to do a show of all the dumb wrestling shit I got myself.
That's what I'm saying. Like we can next time we can jump on some wrestling stuff too, you know, because
I was dumb enough to have fun with Abdullah the Butcher.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, it was at a Chiller show. I had no fucking clue when I was getting into it. I was just laying on the floor going, please don't hurt me.
Did you get the fork?
No, I ducked out of there, but somebody got their ponytail cut off.
Oh my God.
But then the funny part was about 2 years later, I go to this convention and he's there and I walk in and he looks at me and goes, hey, I remember you. You learned anything yet?
Yeah.
No, he was all right. People say bad shit about him. I never had, you know, it's always cool with me.
It's like I said, I enjoyed him and he was a performer and like some of the interviews I've seen, you know, he's kind of had a rough life beyond wrestling. So,
well, with him, you never know.
Right.
It's like when Mick Foley, you've seen the probably thing on the Dark Side of the Ring, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, Mick Foley was talking about how he could read the menus and shit like that. I'm like, you know something? I know he's a hustler. I know he kept the whole kayfabe thing. I know guys that paid him $500 for interviews and he never said shit. He just talked around everything. But he's a legend. The guy's fucking 80 something now.
Yeah.
And he's between, I think, out of the real crazy guys from back then, it's only him and Kevin Sullivan. We just lost Terry about 2 months ago.
Yeah. God, I saw him a lot in the when he made it up to WWF. You know.
Well, I used to go to ECW all the time.
Oh fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, next time we'll do some wrestling, man. We'll get that in there too.
All right. Cool. Yeah.
Sure.
All right.
All right, man. Well, hey,
again, thanks for having me on, guys. It was a lot of fun. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
And everybody get over to 42nd Street Pete's YouTube page, his website at 42ndstreetpete.net.
Yes.
Any social media that you can find him on?
Everything I have right now is in stock. I can always order more, but you know, the only thing I'm really like low on is Whole Bag of Crazy. I think I only got 10 of the original copies left.
All right.
Awesome tribute to the late great.
You can buy it off Crappy Cloud. I don't give a shit. You know, I'd rather you read it. You know, people enjoy it. I mean, you know, so you know, I even said one time, I said, you know, it's something you can't make money unless my name's attached to it, right?
There you go. There you go.
And they'll probably be, oh, I can't believe you fucking said that. Well, you know something? And enough bullshit thrown my way. So, you know, just keep on going. That's the whole thing. It's really weird with this business that I found over the years that you do good, people shit all over you. It's not like, oh, that was great. No, they're like, oh, how come it wasn't me? Hey, I created this whole thing as a joke on Mike Rainey, if you remember back.
Right.
The whole 42nd Street Pete character was a joke on Mike Rainey. Fucking joke's on me.
Yeah. You're still here.
Because I'm still here.
Yeah.
Stop swimming, shark.
Yep.
That's right. Well, thanks again, man. And we will catch you another time down the road. And
okay, looking forward to it.
Have a great night.
You too.
All right.
Thank you.
42nd Street Pete, ladies and gentlemen.
Woo!
Oh, yeah.
That was a show. So let's thank our final girls and guys, Chris, Lorena, Lorena, BD, Tyrone, our Crazy Ralph's, Bells, Fancy Creations, Dr. Smiley, Raymond, and the whole damn Enchilada Pod, and of course our camp counselors, 42nd Street Pete, Corey, Luke, Jimmy and Rachel, Stacy Lynn, Orlando, Patricia, Kristen, and JJ.
It's just another manic Monday.